I want to say thank you very much to North Shore Naturopathic Clinic because they are sponsoring our fabulous speaker today. This is Dr. Natalie Greenwood. She's a practicing naturopathic doctor on the North Shore, focusing on women's health. But again, I'd love to see how many men are in this room because a lot of this stuff crosses over and a lot of it doesn't, and we'll find out about that. She writes a monthly blog, which she's going to share her thoughts with us right now. So you guys, this is Dr. Natalie Greenwood. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Just talk? Okay, we're good? Closer? Okay, yay! Thank you everyone for joining me today. I know it's sunny and beautiful outside, and thanks for spending your afternoon here with me. So the discussion today is called The Modern Day Superwoman is Exhausted and the Adrenal Gland Connection. And I just wanted to let you know that 80% of North Americans suffer at some point in their life from adrenal insufficiency. So take a look at this picture right here, this lady. Can anyone relate to this lady? Juggling a million things, needing about 10 more arms to deal with everything in life. I'm seeing this trend a lot in my patients. Women are doing absolutely everything. They're working full time, they're mothers, they're wives, they're volunteers. They're really packing their plate with everything, and it's a little bit too much. So my name is Dr. Natalie Greenwood. I work at the North Shore Naturopathic Clinic on the North Shore with Dr. John Matson. Some of you may know him. It's a wonderful clinic. I studied in Hawaii before I went to naturopathic medical school, which was a brilliant experience as well. So why am I talking about the modern day superwoman is exhausted? I started to see a trend in my patients. A lot of women were coming in between the age of 30 and 60 and absolutely exhausted. And when I looked kind of at their history and took a look at what's causing this, I'm seeing that there's just this chronic stress picture that's happening, and it's really actually creating them to become very sick. So let's get the science out of the way. It's the boring stuff that no one wants to hear about, but it's important. So we have something called the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is called the autonomic nervous system because it automatically does work for your body. So this nervous system controls things like your heart rate and your heartbeat, which is great because that means that you don't have to consciously think about it. Can you imagine if you consciously had to think about every time your heart was beating? You'd just be like somebody, hi Natalie, good, lub dub, lub dub. I can't talk right now. I've got to think about my heart rate. Lub dub. So brilliant, we have this autonomic nervous system that does everything for us without us having to consciously think about it. That autonomic nervous system gets broken down into two different nervous systems called the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. So let's start with the sympathetic state. So sympathetic means it's your nervous system for survival, right? This is your fight or flight. This is, you're in danger, you need to get away. This is the sympathetic nervous system that's going to be dominant. And when you're in this sympathetic nervous system, your heart starts to beat. So that blood pumps throughout your body faster, so oxygen can get to the rest of your body faster. Your pupils dilate so you can see more light, so you can see where the heck you're going. Glycogen, or your glucose stores, become released so that your body and your muscles have glucose to create energy so you can run away. And your adrenal glands, which we're going to focus on today, produce adrenaline or cortisol. And you always hear about those men that can lift up cars off babies and things. Their adrenaline is just pumping so fast. So our adrenal glands are an absolutely brilliant and big part of our sympathetic or fight or flight nervous system. And then let's talk about the parasympathetic. This is our rest and digest. I love this nervous system and I wish we could all be in it a lot more in our lives. So in parasympathetic, this is where our digestion is optimal. This is the nervous system that we heal in, right? This is when you're sleeping, you're in parasympathetic, rest and digest. So think about being on the beach in Mexico, you're in your bikini, the waves are splashing up on your feet, you've got your little Mai Tai, life is good, everyone's relaxing and enjoying themselves, right? Yeah, so there's our adrenal glands that we're going to focus on today. And I like to think of our adrenal glands as a superhero because really, without them, we'd be in big trouble. So they're our superhero. They produce all these different hormones to help us throughout life and throughout stressful situations. Oh, hang on a second. So I wanted to give you guys an example of what working in the sympathetic nervous system is. These women in this next film they're not calm. Things are not good. They're running in survival. So here's just a quick film to show you guys.
Oh, this is your last chance. One piece of candy gets past you, and in the packing room unwrapped, you're fired. Listen, let her roll!
Well, this is easy. Yeah, we can handle this, okay?
As a conveyor belt of chocolates. Forrest Gump would say like a box of chocolates, but in this instance we're going to think about our life as that conveyor belt, and all of those chocolates are fine when they're going at a slow pace, and even Lucy says to Ethel, hey, we can handle this all right. And then the conveyor belt starts to speed up and there's so many more chocolates to deal with, and then all of a sudden they're saying, oh gosh, we're fighting a losing battle. This can happen in our life as well. So let's talk a little bit more about this superhero of adrenal glands. Does everyone know where their adrenal glands are? So you have your kidneys right here underneath your rib cage, and on top of your kidneys is your adrenal glands. So they are about the size of a walnut and weigh the weight of a grape. So they're really quite tiny, but they're absolutely brilliant. And our life, our resiliency, energy, and endurance depend on their proper functioning. So this is a max pulse test. This test to see what nervous system patients are in, whether they're in sympathetic or parasympathetic, and it's checking for heart rate variability. So this is kind of the typical picture that I see. And my mom's laughing in the audience right now because this is her picture. So what we see is people are running in sympathetic dominance, or they're running in their survival state for majority of the time. What happens is it's broken down into physical and mental stress. And you can see here, mental stress is right off the page. Stress resistance, this is your adrenal glands' ability to handle stress. So it's okay to be under stress if your adrenal glands can cope with the amount of stress that you're under. If you see the stress resistance is high, but still mental stress is higher, and eventually it's going to run down those adrenal glands reserves. So out of the 471 women that we tested with the max pulse, 415 were running in sympathetic dominant. That means that 88% of the women we tested are running in this fight or flight state. So what a load. These poor adrenal glands cannot tolerate this forever, right? Everything like running a marathon, you become tired, your adrenal glands become tired, and they can't meet with the demands that you're asking of them. Eventually they can burn out or become insufficient. So we all have signs in life. This is the wrong way. Anyone ever go the wrong way? Never, right? No. Do not enter signs? The biggest signs that we need to listen to from our bodies are stop signs. Our body gives us stop signs. It's just that you have to listen to your stop signs and actually do something about them. So it's not always easy to know what your body is telling you. So I wanted to go over some stop signs of adrenal insufficiency or burnout so that you guys all become aware and might be able to identify with some of them. Here's just a little joke. The boss thinks you're burning out, but instead of a vacation, he's moving you under the smoke detector. So trouble getting up in the morning. Even after 8 or 9 hours, it's hard to get up in the morning. You're tired. That alarm goes off and you do not want to get out of bed. This is your normal circadian rhythm or your normal sleep-wake cycle. So in the morning at around 6 a.m., cortisol is high. It's there to get you out of bed, to start your day, to be excited about life. And then throughout the day, it gradually goes down, and by 6 p.m. to 12 a.m., this is low so that you can go to sleep and get into that rest phase, right? So when people become deficient or insufficient, you get more of like a flat line, and so you have trouble getting up in the morning because you don't have those cortisol reserves you once had. And then continued fatigue not relieved by sleep. So even, you're sleeping a lot and you're still feeling exhausted. Big sign of adrenal insufficiency. Craving salty or sugary food. Another hormone that the adrenal glands produce is something called aldosterone. It's in the back there. And aldosterone helps for you to reabsorb water to keep your water or your blood pressure up. And this is important because if you don't have good blood pressure, then your body can't circulate blood throughout your system. So you tend to crave these salty foods so that your body retains the water, and then you have that proper blood pressure. So a really low blood pressure is also an indication of adrenal insufficiency. And then, of course, the sugary foods help to provide you that quick glucose. So people tend to crave more of those easy-to-digest carbs, simple carbs, and sugars just to give you that boost of energy. So our poor adrenal glands here, they're not very happy. Increased effort to do everyday tasks. And you can see this woman has a 100-pound weight on her. And literally, this is how a lot of patients come into my clinic, and they're just like, everything is difficult, whether it's going down to the store to get groceries or just going to get the mail. It just feels like everything you do has a weight on it. So it gets pretty tough to do anything. Decreased sex drive. So the other thing that the adrenal glands produce in women is testosterone, which helps to produce that sex drive. So I had a patient who I was treating for adrenal insufficiency, and I called her up to do a check-in, and I was like, well, how's your libido? And she's like, oh, is that what happened? She didn't realize that me treating her adrenal glands would make her husband so happy. Decreased ability to handle stress. So if your adrenal glands are a bit fatigued or tired, guess what? So are you. And these little stressors all of a sudden become big stressors. And I have a lot of moms come in, especially single moms that are under so much stress and pressure. They have a decreased tolerance for their kids. Like they get a bit snappy, right? And irritable, and just the little things, again, become big things. So as we treat those adrenal glands and get them stronger, then you have an increased tolerance again. Increased time to recover from illness or injury. So what happens is stress goes up, immune system tends to go down. And this is even seen in the medical field. If someone has an autoimmune disease, what does the doctor give them? Give them some sort of cortisone, which is cortisol, to inhibit their immune system. So this happens physiologically in your body too. Stress goes up, immune system goes down. Then you start to get sick, you pick up all these bugs, and you have a really hard time trying to recover from them. Lightheaded when standing quickly. So this again gets back to having low blood pressure, right? So as you're sitting down, you get up and gravity's pulling blood down, and you don't have enough blood pressure or a high enough blood pressure to circulate blood back into your head, you get this dizziness and start to see stars and everything like that too. That's why you tend to crave more of the salty things. Your circadian rhythm goes off. So it kind of feels like you should be living on the other side of the world. because your time zones are completely off. You wake up tired, you're tired throughout the day, and then all of a sudden at night you get this second wind and you're ready to go. And it's really frustrating because you're tired, you can't wait to go to bed that night, but you can't fall asleep because all of a sudden you have this second wind. So it's this perpetuating cycle that's hard to break if you don't know what's going on. Mild depression, I see this a lot. It's hard to distinguish, right? Because it's a lot of the same symptoms, that fatigue, decrease, you just don't want to do things, everything's an effort, you're tired. So a lot of patients that are on antidepressants, as we treat their adrenal glands, are able to get off their antidepressants because really they have more of an adrenal insufficiency than a depression issue. And fuzzy head. Patients will describe this as they feel like they're walking in a cloud, like there's just a big cloud on their head, and they have a hard time focusing, a hard time trying to differentiate or concentrate on anything. And trust me, it feels amazing when this cloud finally lifts as you treat their adrenal glands. And memory less accurate, which can get kind of scary when you're getting older in terms of walking into a room and forgetting why the heck you're there. I'm sure lots of you guys have had that experience. And of course, decreased productivity. So if you feel like you have a 100-pound weight weighing on you, it's hard to do anything. So as a naturopathic doctor, our philosophy is to support the weak organ systems and remove the stressors, and the body has the ability to heal itself. There isn't a day that goes by that I'm not humbled or amazed at what our bodies can do when they're in the right environment. Miracles happen, and trust me, trust me, trust me. So what do we want to do? We want to support those weak organ systems, provide this environment for healing, and then watch the body do its work. So we have to figure out, what is stress? A lot of people think stress is just mental, emotional, but there's a lot of different stressors. There's physical, emotional, psychological, environmental, infectious, and digestive. And the adrenal glands don't differentiate any one of these. They see them all the same. So whatever the source it is, it's important to try to remove it or limit it as much as you can. So there those adrenal glands are again, those poor guys getting a little beat up. So just some of the things to think about: toxins, fear, here's a big one, coffee, allergies, lack of sleep, smoking, are all insulting on the adrenal glands. So physical stress, injury, trauma, overuse, living in pain. Any of those of you that are living in pain know that it's absolutely exhausting. You're keeping your body in this sympathetic survival mode all the time. So if you can figure out what's causing that pain, brilliant. The doctor that works in our clinic, Dr. Atkinson, is going to be having a talk on healing pain naturally on Monday, I believe it's at 7. So for those of you who are interested, I wanted to pass on that information. Emotional and psychological stress. So relationships, you obviously want to be in a good relationship. Jobs, fears. Fears are huge because whether they're a rational fear or an irrational fear, your subconscious is always present and always kind of keeping you in this fight or flight state. So really trying to deal with your fears is very important. Where you are in life, finances, life's surprises, and of course perspective. How do you see things? What do you see through your lens? Is it clouded by certain things that have happened to you in your life? Maybe childhood trauma or just experiences. We all have a little bit of a fog on our lens. So I want you to take a moment and close your eyes and open them. So this guy doesn't look very happy, does he? He's got these sharp teeth. His mouth is salivating. He looks like he's ready to pounce. And we don't really want to be in a room with this guy. So when you see this, your heart starts to beat a little faster. Your pupils dilate. Your lungs are trying to bring in more oxygen. You're having that fight or flight experience. I want you to just take a moment and think about who in your life makes you feel like this. Who or what? Is it a job? Is it a husband? Is it a boss? Yeah, just take a moment and really think about who do you actually want to run away from. Close your eyes again. And open them. There's your beach in Mexico picture, right? This is serenity. This is peace. This is parasympathetic. This is rest and digest. this is where your body heals, and it's so important that we want to find that balance. So who and what in your life makes you feel like this? You want to incorporate this a lot more in your life, right? Environmental toxins. So I like to think about our liver as this golden egg. It's so precious. We want to take such good care of it because our liver detoxifies everything that we're exposed to, whether it's from our environment or whether it's from our digestive system. Our liver has a huge job to do, and we want to make sure that it's working efficiently so that more delicate organ systems that come after the liver's filtration process aren't being irritated by peroxides, right? And this is where I see a lot of chronic disease happening, is when the liver is not working properly, peroxides spill into your more delicate organ systems and cause a lot of irritation. Especially once it gets into your lymph and your bloodstream, it kind of can go all over. So you have these two liver enzymes, your first phase and then your second phase. So your first phase makes them water soluble, and then your second phase neutralizes them and allows them to be excreted optimally out of your body. So toxic metals hang on to this second liver enzyme and slow down that whole detoxification process. So toxic metals can be found possibly at work or in your environment. Mercury is a big one. It's found in amalgam fillings or in childhood vaccines, or in your flu vaccine every year has 25 micrograms of mercury. So trying to avoid them as much as possible. Pollution, of course. Pesticides, try to eat organic as much as you can. And xenoestrogens. Xenoestrogens is interesting because it's prevalent, it's all over. It's found, xenoestrogens are just hormone mimickers. So really important, especially for women. They're found in creams and makeup, plastics. And so what happens is you absorb or you digest these xenoestrogens, and they're hormone mimickers. So they go and attach to a receptor on a cell and can cause these incomplete messages. And I've seen a lot of estrogen excess conditions such as PMS or PCOS or fibroids, and it can be quite detrimental. So removing xenoestrogens, I wrote a whole blog on this, so feel free to check out my website for more information regarding that. This is a toxic metal test that I'll do on some of my patients. So it's what I do is I use a chelating agent, and then we collect urine to see what metals are actually coming out of the body. So this patient had high lead, cadmium, and cesium. So this can be very detrimental. Again, that's hanging on to our second liver enzyme and not allowing our body to detoxify the way that it should. Infections. So again, stress goes up, immune system goes down, you're more prone to infections, but infections also cause stress on the body. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. So we want to really boost your immune system up. I'm seeing a lot of yeast overgrowth too. So just from our diets nowadays, with processed foods, a lot of carbohydrates, yeast is quite prevalent in our digestive system. Digestion. This is obviously the foundation of our health. Food is medicine. What you put into your mouth is so important. So how is your diet? Are you eating whole foods as much as you can? My secret is just to eat at the perimeter of the grocery store, right? That's where you can find food mostly in its whole form. And of course, so food comes into your mouth, into your stomach here where protein digestion starts, and just the mixture of your food, and then into your small intestine or your duodenum, where digestive enzymes are excreted to help you actually digest your food. And then in your small intestine, that's where all the absorption of nutrients takes place. So we want to make sure that our digestion is working great. If you have gas or bloating, constipation, diarrhea, any of those digestive issues, I strongly suggest that you work with a naturopathic doctor to make sure that you're addressing the cause of those issues, because again, it's a big stressor. And the other thing is that 70 to 80% of our immune system is actually in our digestive tract. A lot of people don't know that. So essential that our digestion is working properly. And remember that our digestive system works optimally when we're in parasympathetic state. Rest and digest. We're in Mexico. We're eating tacos. We're happy. So when you are going to have a meal, take a moment, take a deep breath, smell your food, use that diet hygiene so that you're actually getting into that parasympathetic so that you can absorb your food and digest your food properly. This is a food sensitivity test that I run on a lot of my patients to see what foods are actually causing an immune response. This test to see what foods your body's actually producing antibodies to. So this can be more of a stressor on your system than actually a beneficial nutrient. And a lot of these foods sometimes are quite surprising intuitively or innately. You might think they're good for you, but you might actually be having a stress response to them. So we want to figure out what they are and then remove them. So again, it's a lot. It's a lot for everyone to digest. And it's a lot for these poor adrenal glands to deal with all of these stressors coming from such different areas. So again, this is the typical picture that I'm seeing. Women are in sympathetic dominant. The other reality is that this stress resistance at the bottom of the page that I was talking to you about, being our adrenal reserve, only 16% of the patients that we've tested in our clinic have higher stress resistance or adrenal reserves than the mental and physical stress they're under. So we're running at a rate that we cannot tolerate the amount of stress we're at. Our adrenals are running out of steam. So why don't we know this? Why isn't this more common knowledge? It's the most underdiagnosed condition that I've seen, and medical doctors aren't even looking for it. So you can go to your medical doctor, you're not feeling right, they run a bunch of lab tests on you and nothing shows up. And they're like, you're fine, go home. But you're like, I'm not fine. I'm exhausted, I can't think straight, my memory's poor. And so it's this gray area that naturopaths are actually picking up a lot of, which is good because the medical system sees Addison's and it sees Cushing's, which is two big extremes. So there's this big gray area in between that obviously needs to be dealt with. So it's not like you wake up one morning and you're just exhausted. Again, you hear those stop signs, or you hear them, but you might not listen to them. So there's that alarm state, which is when you're in fight or flight. There's the adaptive state, is when you've been in the alarm state for an extended period of time. So your adrenal glands are trying to cope with your demands. And then there's the exhaustion. So over time, your adrenal glands say enough's enough, and they become exhausted, and they give out, and then you don't have as much energy as you once wanted. The reason I know this so much is because I dealt with it myself. In high school, I had a lot of separation anxiety. Didn't want to ever be away from my parents. And I played a lot of soccer all over Canada and all over the US, so it was hard. And so I was like, you know what, Nat, you got to get over this. Like, this is crazy. And I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to the University of Hawaii. So for those of you who don't know, Hawaii is the most isolated landmass in the world. So I have this separation anxiety fear, and I'm going to the most isolated landmass in the world to get over my fear. The other thing is I had a fear of airplanes. So obviously the only way you can get anywhere from Hawaii is by air. So studying pre-med in Hawaii, playing soccer, amazing experience, but again, just asking so much of my body. I remember in third year, I sprained my ankle and I wasn't able to play for the rest of that year. And my physiotherapist said, Nat, you can just do anything like front and back, no side to side. So I was like, okay, I'm going to run a marathon. Again, this type A personality, wanting to do everything and wanting to do everything right. So I ran a marathon. And at the end of 5 years, I ended up in the hospital. I was running and my heart started to feel funny. I had a weird beat and I ended up in the hospital with an irregular heartbeat. And so this was very scary because your heart is a vital organ system. You kind of need it. So I was there and the doctors weren't sure what was going on and they weren't sure if I was ever going to play soccer again. So another big stressor for me. I ended up coming home and everything was okay. I have an irregular heartbeat that's kind of normal. But at the same time, that amount of stress really put it out. So after university, I went and played professional soccer in Holland and then came home and played for the Whitecaps. And my dad and my brother sat me down and said, okay, Greenwood, it's time to get your life together here. You're making $100 a month playing soccer. it's not gonna cut it. So I decided to pursue my other passion, which is naturopathic medicine. But I wasn't going to give up soccer. I was going to do both. So I went to school for 12 hours a day. I had 2 training sessions in the morning and night. And of course, if your mind doesn't give, your body does. And I tore my ACL and was done playing soccer. So I decided at med school I was going to take up more volunteer responsibilities. And so I started volunteering for these 2 organizations, FEMA Africa and NDI, which provide naturopathic clinics in Nicaragua and in Africa. And I remember at 3rd year, that was it. I burnt out. I was absolutely exhausted. I was walking in this cloud for about 6 months. Went to my doctor. They said, you have chronic fatigue. That's it. You're going to be tired for the rest of your life. And so I went and saw a naturopath who recognized this as adrenal insufficiency or adrenal burnout and provided me with supplements, but also mentored me that this is a lifestyle issue. You're burning out, you're doing too much, you need to find this balance in life. So I made it through med school, and after med school, I slept for 3 months just to recuperate. It took that long. And I'm 29, I don't have kids, like this is not good. But it was so enlightening to figure out and go through this myself, because now I can recognize it so clearly in my patients and I know exactly what's going on. So I was in the adaptive stage, an alarm stage, for 10 years before I actually started to listen to my stop signs. I encourage you not to wait that long. So how do we fix it? Obviously we want to limit stressors, but it's life. We have to live life, right? So just trying to find that balance. So physical, find yin exercises. We don't have to do everything yang, everything hard. Yoga is brilliant, meditation, breathing. Our breath takes us from sympathetic into parasympathetic. It's our gateway. So just breathe, right? Sleep, having lazy Sundays, giving yourself permission to have a day of rest is so important. Nature walks, emotional and psychological. We all have crap. We've all gone through life. You want to be supported. Go to counseling. I found hypnotherapy very helpful. I have a huge fear of public speaking until I got hypnotized to deal with this subconscious fear, right? It's absolutely brilliant. Once you deal with it, you can do the things that you wanted to do. Meditation, changing your perception, clearing that lens that you're walking through with life. It's going to help you a lot with stress. Thank you. Environment. Minimize those xenoestrogens, toxic exposures, and eat organic. Infection. Make sure your immune system's nice and strong with sleep. Vitamin C is absolutely brilliant. And digestion. Replace coffee and stimulants with herbal teas. Eat as whole food as you possibly can. And make sure that you're in that parasympathetic state when you are eating so that you can digest and absorb all your nutrients. So at the different stages, there's different treatments. When you're in that alarmed or fight or flight state, we want to calm you down, right? So rose hip, valerian tea, brilliant to just get you into that parasympathetic nervous system or calmed again. Homeopathics like Angsia Vita and Rescue Remedy are also very helpful. When you're in that adaptive stage where you're dealing with stressors for longer periods of time, I like to use vitamin C. Vitamin C, again, is not only brilliant for your immune system, but your adrenal glands use the second highest concentration of vitamin C as cofactors for all of their enzyme production and hormone production. Ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is known in traditional Chinese medicine as the power of 1,000 horses, right? So it's really great as an adaptogen to help your adrenal glands with your stressors. Rhodiola and licorice tea. I can never figure out how to spell licorice. Licorice tea is absolutely brilliant. And the other thing that's great about licorice is that it brings up that blood pressure again, which can be found in the adrenal insufficient picture. And when you're in a state of exhaustion, you need a little bit more of nourishing and support. In this stage, I'll give patients an adrenal glandular to help just take over for your adrenal glands for a little bit while they can rest. And the other thing I'll do is intravenous vitamin C. By the time you're in the exhaustive stage, I'm guaranteeing your digestive system is also a bit compromised. So we do intravenous vitamin C because it's 100% absorbed, and we can get high enough doses for your adrenal glands to actually be able to bounce back. But I always tell patients, I'm not supporting you so that you can go and burn yourself out again, right? The biggest thing is that you need to make those lifestyle changes. So does this mean I can't be a superwoman? Absolutely not. I want to redefine what the modern day superwoman is. It's not someone who has to burn themselves out to prove themselves. I want the modern day superwoman to be able to say no, to be able to find this balance in their life, to make sure that they're not burning the candle at two ends, and can just live that more balanced and serendipitous lifestyle. So I know a couple of superwomen. For those of you who don't recognize this girl, this is Karina LeBlanc. She's one of my best friends, and she plays on Team Canada. She's their goalie. So under a lot of stress, obviously, they just won bronze at London 2012. And I asked Karina, I'm like, Karina, how do you do it? She's just got the best personality and just so much energy about her. And she said she wakes up every day brushing her teeth and says 5 things that she's grateful for. She surrounds herself with the right people. She finds balance. It's not about money. It's not about fame. It's about being the best her she can be. And she takes the tough times as a lesson and finding the positive light in everything. Another superwoman is actually my little sister. I couldn't be more proud of her. She's actually right now number one Canadian woman for 3,000 steeplechase. And Shani she says no when she needs to, right? That's a big word. Surrounds herself with people that make her shine instead of shrink. Actively pursues something she's passionate about each day, no matter how small it is. And if one aspect of her life is suffering, she knows she needs to reassess her priorities. So here's the proof. This is Shani's max pulse. And you can see her stress resistance is higher than both her physical and mental stress, meaning she can actually deal with the amount of stress she's under. And her parasympathetic is it's higher than her sympathetic. So I rarely see this on the max pulse test, and I get so happy when I actually do see it. So I always ask people in your life that you can see that they're shining, they got something figured out. What is your secret, Take a look in the mirror. What are your stressors? What do you need to change? Are you listening to your stop signs? What stage are you living in? Do you have the support you need to get well? At the end of the day, the secret is balance. And as you can see, this picture portrays it's not always easy, but it's absolutely the key to life. I just wanted to thank you all for coming and listening to me today. And my blog is right here if you want any more information. Thank you.
Greenwood. She doesn't have a booth here, but as she said, you can check her out online. And if you aren't writing it down right now or you forget, remember in all of your brochures that would probably have been in your yellow and green bags, the brochures have her name on it. So you don't even have to remember. You just have to know one of the things like Women in Wellness Stage or awesome speaker about the superwoman. A superwoman herself, you think? Maybe? Yeah, nice. You're at the Women in Wellness